Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I am Adam Hancock, and today we are back and we're talking new everything. I have a list of 10 that's a combination of the newest release communities across Sarasota and Manatee County, everything that's interesting, stuff that literally released today when I was filming that I had to change the list, and then also all the coming soon, stuff that you may have not heard of. Even me trying to talk to people in town to get any information does not exist. And I think we can draw enough conclusions to give you all the information you really want to know, but find out early enough to really get an advantage. We have suburbs, we have Lakewood Ranch, Venice, custom new construction that's coastal, that's more affordable, and really everything in between. So I think this list hopefully adds you a lot of value, and let's get started. Okay, let's first start off with the newest communities, and then we'll talk coming soon second. So everything I'm about to say is actively selling right now, but brand new. And the first one on that list is a community called Vistera. You have multiple interesting things going on here, but in essence, what you're going to have is a 3-builder mixed community. It's going to be MI Homes, David Weekley, and Neal Communities. So the same kind of players that you see around a lot in Sarasota. Neal Communities actually is the developer of the land as well. If you had a fair shot at all the builders, what your spread's going to be is 40-foot home sites to right under 60-foot wide. You're also going to have 1,600 to about 3,900 square feet, and that's going to consist of single-family homes and villas. And this one kind of bridges the gap of coming soon and new because only one of these communities is released now, and that's why it made this section. And that's the David Weekley community. They're actively selling, the rest are coming soon. What I like about David Weekley here is a couple things. One of those being, I really like these rear-load garage style homes. It's very different to the area. So you're gonna have the South Tampa feel of a breezeway that connects kind of this courtyard feel to the rear of your house and the front of the garage, which you just don't see a lot around this area. The second thing, I think you have a really attractive price point, in my opinion, in perspective of the area as a whole. And thirdly, build times. You know, we have a lot of personal contacts that are building these particular communities, and they're building these things fast, a lot faster than those 18-month timelines. So I know with the sensitivities right now, that's a plus. And just to round this section out, I think this location is incredibly underrated. North Venice is going to be a thing. I was saying this when we were selling Aria and Vincenza and Silo and these communities back in the day, but North Venice is going to be another Palma ranch. You know, you have a location that is parallel to the beach. You can shoot up to Sarasota and Lakewood Ranch and down to Wellen Park and the heart of Venice. And there's a lagoon coming, and there's multiple other communities coming. And when this all shakes out, getting in early might not be a bad idea. All right, number 2 on my list is a community I'm really excited about right now, and it's called Everly. Everly is also in Venice, Florida, but we're going further south to the Wellen Park district, so western Northport, South Venice. Really interesting all the way around, but this is like the Waterside of Wellen Park. It's that level of communal amenities mixed with luxury. And a couple of things that really stand out to me. One, no back-to-back home sites, supposedly. So you build a big, beautiful home, you don't back right into your neighbor like a lot of communities do. 2, with the perspective and the hat on of already knowing this is luxury, a lot of these home sites are going to come out at about half the price that Waterside originally did. So your landed cost of the home and everything that comes with it's going to be a lot more reasonable. And also, this is supposedly not going to be a lot specific to a builder community. So you have to stay in the realm of the builders available, but it's a pick a lot and pick a builder you like, kind of like the Founders Club was. So you could go in there and pick one of the home sites, and you can pick between Lee Wetherington, John Cannon, Neil Signature, or Homes by West Bay, which if you're not familiar with them, I don't think they've been this far south beyond Tampa Bay until right now. So I think all of that makes it really special. And the last thing, just to finish, beyond like the 50-acre lake and all the kind of stuff that's going to be in this community, which this video is not about specifically, is amenities. So a lot of communities in Wellen Park don't have private amenities, and they don't have them at this scale. State-of-the-art clubhouse, fitness center, pickleball. There's supposed to be like a chip and putt golf facility as well. Just to name a few, there's cabanas, all kinds of stuff. So this is one that I think people are going to be really happy they made this decision right now in about 10 years. All right, number 3 on my list for the newest is a community called Emerald Landing by David Weekley. This one's based in Lower Lakewood Ranch, Florida, in the Waterside district. And you may have heard of this one. There's been rumblings for a while now, even though they just recently started selling. I think we did a video in like November of 2022 guessing what this would be when we first heard about it. But what makes this so special on this kind of list is it's like they took a new construction neighborhood that's urban based and they dropped it in the suburbs. That's really what you have here. And they kind of did exactly that. They built a community called Payne Park right outside of downtown Sarasota, and this is kind of the suburban version of it. And what I always liked about that vibe was it is kind of urban style homes. Like they're cooler and different. It's not the regular wide platted single families, right? They have a more coastal aesthetic, lofts, second story living rooms, the way you get in the garages, it's just unique overall. And then they added to it. So the Waterside version really ramps this up and puts it on steroids. So you have coastal inspired homes. You have not just villas and townhomes anymore. You also have single families, so you can go a little wider. And then they have private amenities here, which again, like Wellen Park, a lot of these communities, because they're saying Waterside is your amenity, you don't have your own amenities. So where they're putting this, you have a couple interesting things. Cabana, you have a pool, you have walkable access to downtown Waterside Place, and you have a dock directly off this neighborhood that takes you from water taxi on Kingfisher Lake all the way around to downtown Wellen. So you could go have a couple drinks, you can take a water taxi back. And I think overall, it's going to be really interesting against the Nautiques of the world and Avanti and Alcove in the general offering of new Waterside. All right, number 4 for this section, we're going with Aurora, which is also in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, a little bit further north, and it's kind of mid-central Lakewood. This one's a simple value prop. Affordability mixed with Lakewood Ranch. Those two things are not synonymous if you've been around this world at all for the last couple of years, but this one actually offers that. It's built by Lennar, and Lennar is kind of like a cost leader when it comes to inexpensive homes, but this is even cheap for their standards. So you have townhomes and single families, 6 total plans about right now. Townhomes are under $300,000, pretty firm, and then single families, the highest they get is $360,000. So to have this kind of location mixed with being able to do a family or an investment with Lennar's rental restrictions and all of that kind of thing, I think it gives you a nice mix and a refreshing welcome to something Lakewood hasn't offered in a while. Okay, and the last community I wanted to mention real quick on the newest release before we hit coming soon is a community called Vinterra. And this one's located in the Nokomis, Florida area. Think of Vinterra. If you're familiar with Sarasota at all in the new construction realm over the last couple of years, there was a community called Palma, built by Taylor Morrison. This is the second version, possibly more interesting right at this moment. So Vinterra is also built by Taylor Morrison. It's also all townhomes. And you have 1,300 to 1,600 square feet. You have 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1-car garages, nice offering, interesting location. But a couple things that I like that are the same as Palma and maybe some that are different is, one, I really like this location. Always like this location. The benefit of doing like the all townhome thing in this kind of location is coastal proximity, right? Northern Nokomis, I keep talking about the North Venice, how poppin' this area is going to be. So if you can kind of catch wind of that, it's going to be interesting. Northern Nokomis gives you access up to Siesta Key and Casey Key and down to Nokomis Beach, Venice Beach, Casperson, and Brohard pretty feasibly. There's going to be a lagoon built to the west or to the east of it. So a lot of interesting things there. Also, this community has no CDD fees, which I like. And then finally, the price point, you're going to be $360,000 to $375,000 to start right now. So getting in here is something that I don't believe you could have done at Palma when it first released at this price point and this total cost of ownership if you're looking at it, especially as a rental. All right, my last one for the newest release communities I wanted to mention is one that's really different than anything on this list so far, and it's a community called Palma Sola Grande. So this one's going to be way over in western coastal part of Bradenton. Basically across the street from the water. It's very close to the beaches. You have Palma Sola Sound, I believe, Bradenton Beach, Anna Maria Island. That's the district this is in. So what makes it really, really different than what else exists is it's all large, custom single families in a neighborhood. That's not commonplace in that general area. And that's always the tug for people of suburbs versus the house I want versus I moved to this part of the state because I want to get near the water. That's the tug, right? So you have 16 custom homes. I believe 14 are still available. They're on large home sites. And the builder of this whole neighborhood actually owns a custom pool building company as well. So all of these come with custom pools as well. And the cool thing, they're really coastal. So I love the aesthetic. The aesthetic really plays in. If you're going to go that far, you don't want like a Mediterranean, Lakewood Ranch kind of home necessarily. You want the vibe of that town, right? There's balconies and it looks lovely overall. The other thing you have going for you here is, a lot of people view this particular area like a sacrifice to do this level home because a lot of that area has existed forever. All the home prices aren't the same. The values chop up and down. But because you're doing that, you get a lot cheaper version. Like you get for 1.5 million, 1.6, 1.7 million, that same house would cost 3 million if you were, 5 miles south of it. So I think that's really interesting overall, and could be just something to juxtapose against the Lakewood Ranch and the Wellen Parks of the world. All right, now we're on to our coming soon communities, and our first one, we're gonna start off with a bang. It might be the most exciting community to hit Sarasota County in a long period of time. And it's called Brightmore, and it's the first active adult 55 and up community to hit Wellen Park. So we're back down in that South Venice Wellen Park area, but it's the very first one, and it's also being built by Madame Homes. So those two layers I've never seen. And we have not had a new 55 and up here in a while, and we have 0 down there that are remotely new. So a lot of people, I think, are going to hop on this one. 3 things I really like if you had to pull out differentiators beyond like our foundation: 650 homes, 12 floor plans, you have 1,400 to 2,500 square feet. But 3 things I really like. One is the focus on community. So you're not going to only have lovely amenities like lap pool in addition to resort style pool. You have a clubhouse, cabanas, you have the beautiful atmosphere there. And a lot of Wellen Park communities do not have any amenities, but it's their focus on how they're going to bring the community together, event calendars and lifestyle directors. And it's what everybody wants when they seek 55 and up. They're looking for like-minded folks, and they just move to an area, and it's like being a freshman in college again, and they're going to do this really well, in my opinion. Number 2 is, if you haven't caught the mania of pickleball yet in Southwest Florida, you probably are going to if you end up anywhere near this vicinity. Well, a lot of people have been asking in Wellen, because there's no amenities in their communities, is, are they going to have tennis? Are they going to have pickleball? Are they going to do like an outdoor facility that we can all use? Well, Brightmore decided to build them in their own neighborhood, private, and you only have to share with 648 of your neighbors, 8 private pickleball courts, including a stadium court. So that's going to be really, really special. And this is one of the fastest growing sports, not just in America, but in this part of the state. Incredibly in vogue. Everyone's playing, it seems like. And the third thing that Madame, I think, is going to offer doing this mix is Madame typically is pretty reasonably priced. They built Sunstone, they built Renaissance. They're on the more affordable realm of like a mid-level kind of offering. And the Del Webbs of the world, or the Coulters of the world that have offered 55 and up products, a lot of them come in a premium, or they're really, really far from town. So I think these 3 things could make this one incredible. All right, second for coming soon is a community called Gracewater. And if you are anything like me, when you first saw the name and the logo, you thought it was a church. It in fact is not a church. And I actually think it solves an interesting void right now in Sarasota, and that's new construction single-family communities with in-town proximity. Most of these communities, because of where the land's at, they have to go east or south or north. This one is actually really close to town. You're 4 miles from downtown Sarasota. You are less than 10 minutes from Lido Beach. And also because it's western north coastal, I'll show on a map here, it is only 5.5 miles also to University Town Center. So you have kind of a triangle of Lakewood, downtown, and the beaches, and that's not common with new construction. So that's interesting. Beyond that, you're going to start at the low 500,000s. There's going to be villas and single families here as well. And the single families should start in the low 600,000s. So not terrible for that location. And it's being built by Privada Homes, which you're probably not familiar with. But everything I've seen so far, they look lovely. They're very coastal aesthetics. They look luxurious front elevations. It looks like it's going to be a nice offering. A couple of things that I would pull out as differentiators. One, it should be nice amenities. There's 0 entry resort style pools. They're going to build pickleball in here as well, the clubhouse kind of thing. Secondly, on the villas, we'll show pictures here, but what they're calling villas, there's 4 plans. 2 of the plans look really townhome-esque, and they have like 10-foot ceilings. They have 8-foot doors, and so they didn't go no frills on the villa, the villa floor plans, in case you're someone that wants a luxurious offering, but you just don't need the size of a large single family. So I like that as well. The whole community is natural gas as well, if you're into that kind of thing. And then thirdly, they had a weirdly large focus on community for this kind of community, basically. So their website is just blitzed with event calendars. They have a full-time lifestyle director. Typically that would come in a much, much larger, 1,500 home community out in Lakewood Ranch or something. So I think they're really bridging a lot of gaps of suburb and western coastal neighborhoods right now in Sarasota County. Okay, another one on my coming soon list is a community called Palm Grove by Neal Communities. You may not have heard of this one yet, but it's also based in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. So there's a lot of things that Neal has done as a builder in the last few years that really, I think, pave the path for what this will be. It's pretty predictable. So a couple things to talk about. One is location. This is pretty far north in Lakewood Ranch. It's above Star Farms on that State Road 64 line. So if you leaned into what some people consider a sacrifice of being far from town, far from Sarasota, then there could be some landed benefits. And one of those here is going to be price. These should start in the low 300,000s. And if you remember, or you might not remember, but in 2020, I was making videos about Windward, which is also Neil, and I was screaming from the rooftops about these $265,000 paired villas. Well, you know how many of those villas sold in the last year for above $500,000? Probably all of them. So you're going to have an interesting kind of get in early equity situation out there. I think that could be unique. And there's going to be 700 homes, single family, paired villa, and townhomes. So the same kind of game they've been playing. The second thing is a lot of like the schools and the communities and the new stuff that's not in Lakewood yet, that's not going to just be private, expensive charter situations, are a lot of them are zoned out that way. So it could kind of be like what Lakewood Ranch High School gave to the other area, is it gives you like kind of you could work, live, and play right in the region. You don't really need to go to stuff all the time. And if you do, you have Waterside there. So it's like your own town. And then once a month you can go to the beach. It's not that far. So I think that's interesting. And then thirdly, if you're familiar at all with Indigo, which is Neil's previous regime right by that high school, then I think what this is going to be is basically Indigo, but east. Okay, another one on my coming soon list is a community called Tiburon. There are not a lot of people I've spoke to that even heard of this one, not a lot on the internet about it yet, but I'm going to draw some conclusions of what I've learned from the past. So you got a couple things going here. Built by Taylor Morrison. It is in that North Venice area again, right? So you're starting to see that rhythm. And I believe it's going to be single family homes. So Taylor Morrison this far south and single family is not common just off the bat. But what they have done in 3 other communities is, I think, going to be a similar vibe here, that you could kind of get on top of the research to see if you wanted to get on the interest list early. But they built a community called Casilla that's inside Sky Ranch. That's one. Park that for a second. Built another community called Grandview, which is North Sarasota, west of University Town Center. And then they built a community, I believe, called Arbor Lakes. That's in Palma Ranch. That was fully sold out. They had like crazy amenity center or whatever. All 3 of those were not like the Esplanade brand that Taylor Morrison does. It was more family-centric, more 2-story homes, more narrow lots, like 40, 45-foot planes, and a lot more affordability, especially when they first released. They tried to keep, all those communities tried to keep like HOA fees more minimal than the other. I think that's what's happening here. And there's not a lot like that around this area, because there's a lot of Neil and other builders, but Taylor hasn't done that for whatever, I'm not sure the reason, but for whatever reason, at land development this far south. So I really think, again, that this area is shaping into like a junior version of Palma Ranch. If you look at what Palma Ranch is and what North Venice and Nokomis are merging together with Laurel Road and all that, that's how I sum up Tiburon. Okay, my final community for the coming soon list, and also for the video as a whole, is a really, really unique one, and it's called Tideline. Tideline is a neighborhood that is going to be interesting for multiple facets, but it also is going to give you an alternative to Palma Sola Grande, which was the Western Bradenton coastal single family one I mentioned in the previous section, because we're going all the way back over to Western Bradenton on this one, and we're sitting basically a stone's throw adjacent from Bradenton Beach. So barely any information that exists about this one, but I know enough to be dangerous, I think, and this is why. So Tideline's is going to be built by Neil Signature Homes. That's the semi-custom brand of Neil Communities. Neil Signature has done multiple things in the last couple of years that I think will be a mix of what happens here. So this is a tiny area. Tideline is, to get that coastal, they don't have the huge land that they can build a 300 home neighborhood, right? So I think this one's going to be smaller than anything they've done recently. But what they just released was a community in Lakewood Ranch called Alcove. Alcove's only 46 homes and no amenities because of the land. And I don't think they have enough to do 46 in Tideline, but I think the floor plans being so new for Neil Signature, because every couple of years, right, they evolve the floor plans, name them something different, but that's the closest offering to the history of when Tideline's going to be released. So I think that'd be an interesting example and interesting people to talk to about Tideline, because they'd probably be more similar. They also did the back end of Country Club, the Lakewood Ranch Country Club called Country Club East. Those were built just a few years ago. And then one real unique thing they did in Venice was called Aurora. It was more Mediterranean. It was like the Taylor Morrison of Neil. It's the best way I can relate it. But I know they were crunched with land in there. So the way they built the homes I thought was unique. So that'd be another one to check out. And if you want, you might be less than a mile from Bradenton Beach at this one location. You have the Palma Sola Sound right there, Anna Maria Island. I mean, I think what you're going to have is you're going to have, like the alcove is, I think you're going to have a mid 1 millions price point that would cost you 2.8 if you were 5 miles south. All right, my friends, that's a wrap for today's video. Really hope you found it useful. If you did and you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. I'm really going to bring this channel back and hone it in and provide as much value as I can in this tricky market we have going on right now. If I can assist you, of course, any real estate needs, buying, selling, investing, new construction, you want to know about early incentives, you want to get on email lists, anything like that, please consider reaching out. We have tons and tons of ways to do that. And we have a really interesting team. So I'd encourage you at least to have one conversation. And then lastly, downloadable guides, analytical tools. We have 2 really, really valuable newsletters that are different than anything else we do that go out 2 different times a month, the last day of the month and the midway point in the month, and they're different than each other. So all of that's completely free. If you want to be involved in any of that, you can shoot us an email. You can go to the website, find out where to log your information, anything in between. And I appreciate you guys watching as always. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one.